We are, it seems like forever since we've been here. So Psalm 27 is the book. I had to actually, I was like, I think I'm in 27. But we are in Psalm 27. We'll probably get through Psalm 27 and 28. They're both fairly short, and they're pretty face forward. I mean, it's not like there's a whole lot of hidden meaning and messages here. It's pretty much what you see is what you get. But I looked, when I went to Psalm 27, I realized I had already highlighted a lot of that chapter just because it has a lot of quotes that you've probably heard before and just didn't know exactly where it was. So if you've got a highlighter or a pen, prepare to do some highlighting today in Psalm 27 particularly. Again, we see where David is in a place of, I don't want to say despair, but he's in a difficult time. But you see, again, the way that David would write is from despair to rejoicing and back and forth. And so he starts with, the Lord is my light and my salvation. Whom shall I fear? In other words, if God is my light, there is no darkness. He is my salvation. There is no defeat. There is no death for me. Then who should I fear? I think that in today's society, we're taught to be fearful of everything. More today than in the past. When I was growing up, my parents, we were talking about this at lunch today, is my parents, they only have 3 acres there in Farmington, but they're right in the middle of a huge forested area, a lot of acreage there. In fact, you know where the old Ozark Mountain Smokehouse is, right there in Farmington, Fayetteville area? Well, that mountain, they're on the other side of that whole mountain is, we used to climb and crawl and hike through there all the time. But there are a lot of people that live in those woods now, off the grid, we'll just call it. Yeah. And it's not the same place it used to be. Used to, you could send the kids out and don't come back till dark, but it's not the same place. We almost were taught to fear as a staying safe mechanism more than anything, but there are a lot of things to fear. But I think sometimes things are presented in a way that make them more fearful than they truly are. I think we just saw that in 2020. I mean, and it's not just COVID. I mean, when you look at 2020, fires in California and Australia, we had murder hornets, it was crazy. How much more can we put up? You're going to take the toilet paper too? Okay. It kept on going. And here he says, if the Lord is my light and my salvation, then who should I fear? Point him out to me. Because when I recognize God as my light and when I recognize God as my salvation, I'm not afraid. And you look at David. David was a military leader. This was the same David who said, you come before me with a sword and spear, and I come before you. He learned this lesson very early in his life, almost a fearlessness. And so it's difficult for me now to see David as an adult experiencing fearful moments. How do you go from a giant slayer to, how many times in Psalms already, the past 27 chapters? God, don't hide from me. God, be with me. Where are you? Listen to me when I call you. I think sometimes as we get smarter, we get dumber. I think that's one reason we have childlike faith. David didn't question, he just went and did it. But as David became knowledgeable of the impossibilities, it began to be a problem for him.
Plus, he had problems that we don't normally have. He wanted to be true to his king, Saul, and yet Saul wanted to kill him. And later, Absalom the same way. He didn't want to have to kill his son, but his son wanted to kill him.
Absolutely. Well, and to go farther, and when we look at you can take these, like you just said, you can take these from Psalm and almost kind of get the idea of, all right, David, you're being a little bit moody. But to understand that if I drop the ball, if I fail myself, I fail my family. But if David drops the ball, he's a king, the leader of the nation. In fact, today, his symbol is their symbol. It's not just, oh, it was David. He is the David. And there's so much writing on every decision that he makes. It's not just him and his family that's affected. Truly, it's the world who's affected. And so, here we see him speaking these things. Now, does that mean that David never felt fear? Does that mean that David never put his trust in his army? He did, but whether or not he felt fear, he is speaking against the fear, I believe. Is even in the moments when I feel fear, I'm going to speak, I'm going to preach, I'm going to say against fear that the Lord is my light, He is my salvation. Why would I fear you? Sometimes we have to tell ourselves that because it's not a machismo kind of thing that, well, I'm not afraid of nothing. Well, there are things I'm afraid of. I'm afraid of letting my family down. I'm afraid of making a wrong decision. I'm afraid of, there are things to be afraid of. But here David is pointing out and he's saying, it's not saying I ain't afraid of nothing. He's saying, when I am afraid, I'll remind myself that the Lord is my light and He is my salvation. The Lord is the strength of my life. And again, of whom shall I be afraid? When the wicked came against me to eat up my flesh, my enemies and foes, they stumbled and fell. Though an army may encamp against me, my heart shall not fear. Though war may rise against me, in this I will be confident, that I will not fear. Now, let me ask you this. That very last line, in this I will be confident. Is he saying I am current? Is it present tense? I will be confident in this, or is he speaking in the future? Whenever I have fear, I will be confident. In other words, I may not have confidence right now, but I know God's word to be true. I know God to be true, and so I will be confident.
My translation that I'm reading, it says I will still be confident.
You almost get that. It's a future look at, I may not be confident right now, but I will still be confident when it comes. Though the armies may attack, the war may rise, I will be confident.
And by this, he means the Lord is my strength.
And salvation. In fact, he's going to call him the rock here pretty soon. He says, one thing I have desired of the Lord. Well, I don't know, and that's why that Shane and Shane song is called One Thing. I'll be honest, I've asked the Lord for lots of things. And lots of things I probably shouldn't have asked for. Yeah, I've asked him for all, but he says one thing I've desired of the Lord. In other words, I don't think he's just saying I only want this one thing. I think he's saying one thing above all things. I ask that I seek from you. Is that the one thing I desire of you, that will I seek, that I may dwell in the house of the Lord all the days of my life. So let's pause there for just a moment. We look at that to dwell in the house of the Lord all the days of my life, but in a New Testament church, we know that to be beyond this physical life. For David, he was literally talking about every day he lives and breathes on this planet Earth, that he would dwell in the house of the Lord. Where is the house of the Lord for us today? You pointed to it. Where is the house of the Lord? We are the temple. We are the house of the Lord. We are the Holy of Holies. The same place where the priest had to ritualistically wash and clean in order to be in the presence of God, lest they die, by the way, we possess inside us. But he says, that I may dwell in the house of the Lord all the days of my life. So where did David truly want to live every day of his life? And the temple wasn't built yet, but he wanted to be in the Holy of Holies, right there in the tabernacle where the ark was. He said, I could live here every day of my life. Because he just loved being there, or because of what was there? The presence of God. I don't think that David was saying, I want to live here next to this big gold box. I think what he is saying is, and what the message for us is, that I may dwell in your very presence every day of my life. What a wonderful prayer. He says, that's the one thing I pray. But for us, we know it goes so far beyond this world. One thing I ask is that I not only live in your presence today, but in the next and forever and eternally. He says, to behold the beauty of the Lord and to inquire in his temple. Now, do you see temple in your translations? And has the temple been built yet? That word has caused some problems it says tabernacle in yours? It says temple, okay. That word's caused some people to wonder if this is even written by David, because obviously Solomon built the temple. But again, we understand this to be the house of God. So, yeah.
In verse 5, he says tabernacle.
Yes.
Yeah, it sure does.
Yeah. What I think is interesting, he says, when I am in the presence, to look at it all together, he says, this one thing I ask, that I would dwell in the house of the Lord, I would be in his presence all the days of my life for a purpose. And the purpose is to behold, to view, to see, to be surrounded by the beauty of the Lord. God is beautiful.
I don't think there's any question of that.
There's not. But there are times, I look at God's creation as being beautiful, but do I really view him as beautiful?
Which is sort of, I think always picturing kind of seeing the picture, you know, and that was just a man's idea.
Right. We can't comprehend the beauty of the Lord. Imagine the beauty of the Creator if this is what he creates.
Created in his image.
Yes. And so he says, here's why I want to live in the house of the Lord. Because when I'm in his presence, I get to behold him. I can see him. I see his beauty. Now, we tend to look at beautiful things, and let's face it, fellas, we're not beautiful. The ladies are. We love our wives. But they're beautiful. We don't equate sometimes strength and power and beauty together. But that's what David is talking about here. He says, you are my light, my salvation. You're my rock. You're my fortress. And you're beautiful. That seems counterintuitive to me. Something sturdy and rugged. Not necessarily beautiful. But David has so wonderfully put this fact that God is sturdy and rugged and beautiful all at the same time. And the other reason he wants to live in the house of the Lord forever, in his presence, is not just to behold his beauty, but to inquire in his temple. What does that mean? What is an inquiry?
To seek him.
It answers to his problems.
It's a question. I want to dwell in your house. I want to dwell in your presence every day of my life so I can see, I can behold your beauty, and I can ask you questions all day long. Anybody ever had a 3-year-old with them? Why? 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 Imagine when you see him face to face.
Are you there yet?
And he says, what questions do you have? Well, why? Why? I'm going to be like a 3-year-old. And this is David saying, I just want to ask you questions all day long, all the days of my life. Because I'm amazed by what you've done. I'm amazed by the way the earth works. I'm amazed by how all of these things behave. I don't want to ask you about them. I want to know these things. Don't you want to know?
you were standing in the presence of the Lord right now, would you? I wouldn't know what to ask.
I wouldn't either. My first response is, I must be dead. In fact, down there in C2, you see that he says the character of God is attractive. That beauty that David's talking about, it should be an attractive thing. But what's amazing is we see a world that, we live in a world that does not see his beauty. Not attractive to him. This is one reason we see desecration of crosses, desecration of even statues. We see no respect, no...
We've seen that pretty recent. The statue.
Yeah. He's been disguised, made to appear unattractive, but he's not. He's beautiful. It says the character of God is attractive and fitted to inspire us with love for him and to make us, as it were, run after him. That last part, to inquire in his temple. I don't want to just know and ask questions about stuff he created, but just to know more about him. You know, wouldn't you just like to ask God, would you like to ask God his opinion on some things that you've gone through in your life? Hey, I got to ask you about this thing. Remember that?
He probably refused to ask me.
He probably does.
May have been one of these he's already forgotten.
Yeah, he may have thrown that in the sea. Verse 5 says, for in the time of trouble, he shall hide me in his pavilion, is what I've got. Anybody have a different translation?
Tabernacle.
Separate tent.
Sanctuary.
Did you have tent? Okay, good. That would be what a more accurate translation from pavilion is tent. So understand that in this culture, this was typically a home was a tent. And the standard of care was, even if you were fleeing from somebody chasing you, if you were in someone else's tent, you were safe and secure. You were guarded. They couldn't come into your tent. You had a duty to protect them. And he says, in the time of trouble, he shall hide me in his tent.
In the Amplified, it calls that the shelter. You hide in shelter, and then and the other one is the tent.
Yes.
The secret place of his tent where he hides me.
In the secret place of his tabernacle. Yeah. He shall hide me. He shall set me high upon a rock. Now that rock is going to appear again in Psalm 28, the next one we're going to study here in just a few minutes. But he shall set me high upon a rock. Now, what I find interesting is he says, the secret place of his tabernacle, he will hide you high upon a rock. I'm either hidden or I'm presented. So I don't think that it's David saying, you're going to hide me, but it's you will defend me. It's that kind of hiding, not a hide from sight.
I kind of like that name, that where it says the shelter, because he won't hide us from everybody, but he will shelter us from
Mm-hmm. Shelter from all harm is the hymn, right? He shall hide me, he shall set me high upon a rock. And now my head shall be lifted up above my enemies all around me. Therefore I will offer sacrifices of joy in his tabernacle. I will sing, yes, I will sing praises to the Lord. He says, and now my head shall be lifted up. Have you ever done something that made you hang your head? Everybody has. When I do something foolish, stupid, embarrassing,
If you hurt somebody's feelings.
I hang my head. He said, now my head shall be lifted up. I'm not going to be discouraged. I'm not going to be embarrassed. My head will be up above my enemies all around me because their heads will be hanging low. Because of this, I will offer sacrifices of joy. That seems a weird phrase, a sacrifice of joy. I will offer to God joy. We talked about that kind of this morning.
Well, that's what he did when he brought the ark into the city of David. He was sacrificing his joy,
Right.
and his wife thought he was foolish.
Do we give God a sacrifice of joy? I find myself more at times asking God for joy than just giving him joy. In the midst of my circumstance, in the midst of my trouble, whatever I'm going through, I will give you my joy. It's so, it's different. It's unique that he would say it this way because joy comes from the Lord as a fruit of the Spirit, and yet he is offering joy as his sacrifice of praise.
My commentary says rather than panic, he will respond with songs and shouts of joy.
And again, it's not happiness. Happiness is fleeting. Happiness is on the outside. Joy is on the inside. And so I think he can say, I have joy even in the hard times. And I will give you joy. I will set myself, kind of in that same, I will be confident in this. When he said just a few, I will. He's saying here, even when I may not feel joyful, I will still give you my joy in your dwelling place, your tabernacle. I will sing, yes, I will sing praises to the Lord.
It's just like when Jesus was born and the angel came and said, I will bring you great tidings of great joy.
And let me ask you, who did he say that to?
The shepherds.
Did he tell Mary it was that they were bringing joy? It was the shepherds. But what was?
Shepherds were the one that said that.
But why would the shepherds have received joy? I bring you tidings of good news, great joy. What was Jesus' mission when he was here on earth? It was to die, to suffer and die, wasn't it?
Well, that was his overall commission, but nobody knew it at that time.
Nobody knew it at that time. But the angels, I believe, did. And still called it a joy. His pain would be our joy. His suffering would be my inheritance.
It's our salvation.
It would be my salvation. The pain he would have to endure for my everlasting peace and joy and happiness. Because I believe God not only calls for joy, but I think God wants us to be happy here. Why would he make so many happy things around here? He says, hear, O Lord, when I cry with my voice. Have we heard that before in the Psalms? Oh yeah, multiple times. Hear, O Lord, when I cry with my voice. Have mercy also upon me and answer me. Why is he asking for mercy? Why do you think? We're all in need of mercy. Sometimes we look at David, and sometimes, I'll be honest with you, when I think of David, I always think of that one time. But he was human, wasn't he? He must have made more mistakes than Bathsheba and Uriah. There must have been a daily walk for him too. But we tend to look at David as, well, it was just that one time. No. I think that for David, he's looking at every time and going, God, have mercy on me because I am guilty. But I'm throwing myself on the mercy of the court. Don't hold my sin and my failings against me. Have mercy on me. Don't be silent because I was wrong. Have mercy. Overlook it and answer me. When you said, seek my face, my heart said to you, your face, Lord, I will seek. I think it's interesting, he said, my heart said it. Is there a proverb that talks about out of the heart, the mouth?
Out of the abundance of the heart.
And here's David saying, You said to seek my face, and my first response was not even to say it yet because my heart already said it. I couldn't even say it fast enough. My heart was like, yes, I will seek you.
And the heart's the central core.
And yeah, a lot of the Hebrew teachings, the Hebrews made their decisions out of their heart. They were led by their heart. There really wasn't a reason or a decision-making process. It was all made.
Your face, Lord, I will seek. Do we wake up every day seeking his face? We should. And he says, do not hide your face from me. In other words, he's saying, you told me to look for it. I said I would. My heart said I would. So don't hide it from me. I've said it before, God is a horrible hide and seek player. Because you can't look around and not see God. But in this moment, David is reflecting on times where he's felt alone. He's felt discouraged. He's felt like God wasn't watching. He felt like it was falling on deaf ears. Do you see that theme? I've called. Don't be silent. I've sought. Don't hide. Where are you? David has got to have, he had to have gone through these moments. Have you gone through these moments? Sure, all of us have. But he said, I think for David to have written this, David is saying, I know, my head knows that God is not ignoring me. He's not hiding from me. He's not running from me. I'm just telling you, it seems this way to me. I can't see you see me. I can't hear you hear me. So answer me. Have you ever had a conversation with somebody and they're listening to you, but you think they might not, so you're asking for that? As if they go, yeah, You think they're listening because they're responding? And they're not. They're just, yeah. This is David's way of saying, look at me and respond. Assure me that you are hearing me. Give me, you ever ask for a sign? God, give me a sign. God, show me that, tell me that you hear. I don't think this is David saying, you answer me when I call you. I don't think that's what he was saying. I think it was a matter of, I'm calling on you. Just let me know that you heard me. In other words, you can even tell me no, and I'll be okay with it. But you know what will give me rest and peace and joy and comfort tonight? Is for you to just simply say, David, I heard you. There are times in my prayer that I would love for God to just say, Aaron, I heard you. I'm not even giving you an answer. I just need you to know I heard you. That's what I think David's asking for. I don't need the solution. I don't need you to solve my problem right now. I just need to know you heard me. It says, do not turn your servant away in anger. You have been my help. He's saying, in other words, I know you're going to help me, and why? Because you have been my help. I'm going to look in the past and see how many times you've saved my tail, and if you've done it then, why won't you do it now? Do not leave me or forsake me, O God of my salvation. When my father and my mother forsake me, then the Lord will take care of me. Now, do you think Jesse forsook David? I think that when we look at life, the closest bond on earth we're supposed to have is between a husband and wife. But it's still very different between a child and a parent. And I'll say it like this. Are there conditions to your love to a spouse? Are there things they could do that would make me no longer be their spouse? Sure. But what could happen that would make me no longer be my dad's son? It's an unconditional relationship. And what David is pointing out here is that even if my father and mother forsook me, that's the closest earthly relationship I can think of, I know you won't forsake me. You will take care of me. It's interesting to see how David is also putting himself in the position of a child, needing to be cared for. I think sometimes we need to be in that position as well. I'll tell you, like I said this morning, I would much rather handle things myself than admit that I need help. And I think that David was very easily and quickly going to, I'm a child. Take care of me. Even if my father and mother were to forsake me, you won't. I know you won't. Take care of me. He says, teach me your way, O Lord. Frank Sinatra said, I did it my way. He says, teach me your way, O Lord. I don't want to do it my way anymore. And in my own life, I've had to look and go, well, that was a dumb decision. You ever had that? I shouldn't have done that. Well, that was a bad investment.
Usually somebody does remind you before you think of yourself.
Sure. David's saying here, teach me your way because your way's better than mine. I know that. And to imagine this is coming from the mouth of a king is fairly significant because he's supposed to have all the answers. He's supposed to know what to do. And he's saying, teach me your way, O Lord, and lead me in a smooth path. Does anybody have a different translation for smooth?
I say plain.
Okay, that's more accurate. Level, good. I don't think that David is asking for an easier path. I think he's asking for a more stable path. A level place to set his feet.
Lower highs and shallower valleys.
Yeah,
My Bible says plain path and then down that it's smooth.
right.
It says the plain and even path.
Yeah. A place where I can get sure footing. A place where if I need to, I can do battle. A place where I can stand sure-footed. So lead me in a smooth, level, plain path. Not an easy path, but level. Because of my enemies. If you were choosing ground to fight, your enemies, back in David's time, and understand he is a warrior. At his core, he's a warrior. In fact, he's not even allowed to build the temple because he's a warrior. God says, It's difficult because I think of David, and he's not some warrior, and this dude plays the harp and writes songs and poetry. But here he's saying, God, teach me your way and lead me in a smooth path, a level playing field because of my enemies. I need to be in a position where I can fight. So show me your path, where I be sure-footed. And do not deliver me to the will of my adversaries, for false witnesses have risen against me, and such as breathe out violence. And here's one I have highlighted. I would have lost heart unless I had believed that I would see the goodness of the Lord. Where? Where is that? Right here. Sometimes I feel like we think everything will make sense, everything will be golden when I get to the other side. When I get to Beulah land, that place across Jordan, God's going to make everything right. But David's saying, I would have given up. I would have thrown it all away. But my faith made me hold on, that I would see your goodness in this lifetime, in my life. That you would bring me joy and peace and comfort and harmony. It's so weird to think about David the warrior, but I think that David truly desired peace. I think that was his heart. I believe God made David a warrior, but David, if given his own desires, I think he would have been a man of peace. He says, I would have given it all up, except my faith wouldn't let me let go. that I would see goodness of the Lord in the land of the living. Here's another underlinable one. Wait on the Lord. Be of good courage, and he shall strengthen your heart. Wait, I say, on the Lord. Now, this wait doesn't mean to sit there and twirl your thumbs and... This wait, in Hebrew, this word would have been to wait expectantly. So it's almost like a beggar holding out his hands, waiting in anticipation. It's almost like a waiter by the table. Now, we tend to think of a waiter, they've got 20 tables they're trying to work, and eventually they're going to get to you, and you might get a straw in your silverware. Maybe. That's how we think of waiting tables. But I want you to imagine that the table has its own waiter, and I have no other job but to make sure you never go empty and you have everything you need. That is the wait that he's talking about. Not that I've got 20 tables and I'm working for my tips. I work for you. So imagine in these times, in these days, that you would have a wait staff. A waiter would not be working all of them. I would be strictly Jack and Beverly's waiter. What do you need? That you would have your conversations and I would be right there. You need me to get something? All you have to do is turn and say, could you? I'm on it. This is the type of wait that David is saying. Not just point me in the direction when you get around to it, God. No, it's an expectant wait. I'm waiting for your word. I'm waiting for what you have for me. I expect it.
I like the thing you said here, if we are weak, it's because we did not wait on the Lord. And that's something to think about.
Yes. It says he shall strengthen your heart. Wait on the Lord. That the result, wait on the Lord. Don't be afraid. Be of good courage. He will strengthen your heart. Wait on the Lord. How do I strengthen my heart? Wait on the Lord. How do I develop good courage? Wait on the Lord. Again, it's not to sit back and just go, well, whenever he gets around to it. But to go to God expectantly. God, you're going to work this out. You're going to move in this situation. I'm expecting it. I'm not going to do something stupid by saying what I don't need to say, by doing something I don't need to do. I'm going to wait on you. You do it. I'll wait expectantly on you. Any comments on 27?